Welcome back to A Closer Look. There are a number of phone apps that can expose children to a range of things from bullying and unwanted, inappropriate messages, and some apps can even give strangers your child's location. Here to tell us about how we can help protect our children is David Weir, detective with the Chesapeake Police Department. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So what are some of the examples of apps that perhaps a child can download to their phone or their iPad that we should be concerned about?
Right. So social media is super powerful these days. It's how we connect through our schools, through our school districts, and then across. If you have different interests, you're able to connect with people that have the same interests, sometimes worldwide.
Right.
Police departments across the country who do the same job as I do, they've identified about 15 apps that are being used by teens, and the three though that are being used primarily in this area that are pretty prevalent is Snapchat. That's probably the big one, which is a video sharing, photo sharing app. That also has a messaging capability, and most kids are using Snapchat primarily just to message back and forth. The purpose of Snapchat is to connect with people also that have the same interests that you do. But the way it was intended is when you send an image or a video, they would delete on its own.
That's what I thought,
right?
And that's sort of tough because as a parent, you probably can't monitor what your child is sending.
Correct. So you won't be able to see those images that they're sending or receiving because of the short time frame. They can be set as the duration as being 3 seconds up to 10 seconds. You can set it to infinity, but the Snapchat itself is locking down privacy as default settings when you actually download the app, and then the user actually has to go in and change some of those settings. So it's very important for parents to just have a conversation with their kids about online safety.
Absolutely, and to monitor it, because I'm sure sometimes, especially when they're teenagers, they're not probably going to tell their parents everything.
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah, we were all kids at one point.
Absolutely.
Our cell phones, are a million times more powerful than the supercomputers that NASA is using to launch the Apollo.
Wow.
So
that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So you're putting this basically a supercomputer that's very portable, and we basically can't go anywhere now without our cell phones. Everybody
absolutely.
You almost panic when you don't have your cell phone.
And sometimes kids, I know I have, of course, a cell phone, but I couldn't tell you half of probably what it's capable of.
Right.
But our kids are
they grew up in this
that.
age.
They grew up in that age
absolutely.
of technology. So
so kids from as early as 8 years old, through basically the duration of their lives, they're getting these smartphones that have a great amount of power. We allow kids to start driving, when they're 16, but we just don't give them a car and say good luck with that, and never monitor they're getting their oils changed,
no, absolutely.
that their brakes on. So the safety of the car is very important, and we set very strict parameters on when a kid can use a car because of the inherent dangers of driving. The mobile device is like I said, it's just almost like a computer, and it is a computer, and to not monitor a child's cell phone can be challenging, or it could be detrimental if you're not doing that, because there's a lot of things that these children and kids can be doing that you might find out later on, which might be a little bit too late to kind of pull it back in at that point.
And really, if you think about it, the car analogy is a great one, because your car, absolutely you're worried about your child's safety, but it's a vehicle that you're paying for.
Right.
More than likely, you're paying for this phone as well.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
So really, I think a lot of parents may feel like, well, I can't do anything about it, but you absolutely can.
Absolutely.
And you probably should.
Absolutely.
Because, like you said, when if the situation, they may get into situations, teenagers or even younger kids who don't know any better, that they're just not mature enough to handle, because a lot of these apps that we're talking about, adults do have them, but there's a difference between an adult and a 10-year-old.
Right. Us as adults, we make a lot of the same mistakes that these children are using. The sending of inappropriate images, the threats. Sometimes when people get really heated on a topic, they'll send threats. These kids are doing the same thing, but they just don't have the same mental capacity as we do, and sometimes they feel isolated because they're being bullied and they don't reach out to somebody. So if we don't have these these conversations with our children about being safe, about knowing the profile, like on your profile, to make sure that you're not sharing too much information, like your address, your date of birth. Making sure that the location settings are locked down, so that you're not posting your actual geolocation address you're actually using it. Snapchat, like we were talking earlier, has the capability that you can share your location with your friends. The default setting is for it to be set to private. But you can open it up, and depending how far you open it up, people can see exactly where you are at any given time that you might not know.
And that is so dangerous, because as an adult, I wouldn't want anybody to necessarily know that, because just with social media even, a lot of people share a lot of things, they just don't think about it, that someone who may not have the best intentions is paying attention to. So how can someone monitor their child's phone or social media?
Well, I think the best thing to do is, number one, when you talked earlier, that you're the one paying for this phone, and having a phone is not a right, it's a privilege, just like driving.
Right.
And there's a lot of resources online. You can Google basically cell phone contracts and get and you can tailor it to what you want, for you and your child. And make sure that you have that contract in place, and you know that you have there's consequences when you violate the contract. So speaking up front, this is what you'll use your phone for. So it's like if you download apps, you make sure you get parental approval first before you post something. Make sure that you're also getting approval for that. And that you know all the passwords for how to get into the phone, how to get into all their social media sites. And if, as a parent, if you don't know what an app is, you're looking through it, and you're like, well, that doesn't look right, just Google it. And you can definitely find it, and you'll find out, hey, is this good for my child to have?
Now, can someone, say a parent, okay, let me find out what websites or apps I should be concerned about. Is there someplace they can go to get a list of those?
Once again, I think Google is your best friend.
Right.
Just Googling because that is constantly evolving. Apps come and go. So if you just Google like the biggest apps that 2019, go ahead and do that, and so then you know what's going on. That would probably be the best way, because things are constantly evolving. And things are constantly changing. Like right now, TikTok is the biggest app out there, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. And so things can just kind of get up really big, and then so things are constantly changing. So just definitely Google it.
And stay on it. Absolutely. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. It's just such a serious, important topic to talk about. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, that does it for this edition of A Closer Look. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.